So hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 14 of season 3 here on F1 Manager 23. Now, we've got a bit of a cost cap chat coming up at the start of this episode, but if you didn't watch the last episode, go back and watch that one because it was, of course, in Spa. Last lap, Lando managing to beat Charles Leclerc, win the Grand Prix. Pierre Gasly got absolutely smashed into the barriers, didn't have a good race, and this has prompted some discussion in terms of the cost cap because of that incident on car 2, that absolutely blasted one of his engines and a couple of other car parts as well. Now, ideally, we would be taking another engine before the end of this season, but we are now, due to the cost cap, not going to be able to, because if we go to the cost cap at this moment in time, we've got 12 million remaining. It's projected to be around 4 million by the end. Now, I want to spend that money really looking at next season's car. I think we've now got to basically halt the upgrades. We've just had a decent break. We've got some more upgrades coming on the car. In terms of our car at the moment, the car number 1, which is Lando Norris's, we are the best car on the grid at high-speed cornering. We are not bad at some other things. We're not great at low speed, we know this. But that high-speed cornering certainly gets us through a lot of racing and has allowed us to be very competitive so far this season. We have got, of course, major regulation changes coming next year for a lot, well, for everything basically. So we've got to make sure that we do our research. So I think we are going to get some research done to make sure that our car is in a decent position for next season, which may mean towards the end of the season we aren't getting quite the results that we're getting at this moment in time, but we cannot break the cost cap. So that being said, we're going to continue to carry on, of course. We're at Zandvoort this weekend. This circuit in particular, 72 laps around here, car attributes, medium and high speed cornering. This should be a good Grand Prix for us. Expected strategy is a 2-stop, depending on the weather, of course, so it should be a decent weekend for us. Just a quick check on the standings before we get into it. We are now level on points with Ferrari, tied for second in the constructor standings. Red Bull running away with it, of course. Driver standings wise, Max Verstappen is leading on 215 points, but Lando Norris is certainly the third best driver and could possibly catch George Russell, and if he did, that would be some achievement. So with all that being said, I'm going to get through practice. Let me know down in the comments what you think we should be focusing on. Should we continue to develop this year's car or focus very much on next year's? You need to be catching the streams as well for the Ferrari save, that's good. But I'm going to get through practice and I'll see you in qualifying for the Dutch Grand Prix. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to Q3 here because we got both cars through. Max Verstappen was knocked out in Q1 at his home Grand Prix. It's been raining all weekend. We've been on the intermediate tyres mostly. These are going to be the key laps in Q3 because these first laps are the only laps we are going to get in on the soft compounder tyre. Lando Norris on his first flying lap, he was the first man out there, and Lando Norris crosses the line. It's a 109.6. What can Pierre Gasly do? Pierre Gasly is 0.3 of a second slower. Must be said, Pierre Gasly does have the lesser underflow. We only managed to get one manufactured of the new upgrade, and Lando Norris has it on his car. Pierre Gasly doesn't because we couldn't emergency manufacture it with the cost cap we spoke about, but we can now fast forward on as the rain's going to start to pour down. Where is George Russell? George Russell goes P2, and as the rain starts to come down, I don't believe we are going to get any more running in this session. Possibly not. We'll come back at the end. And there we have it, the end of Q3. It was last lap Lando in Spa, first lap Lando in Q3. He gets pole position. Pierre Gasly's in P3. I reckon we can sprint away at the start here and try to dictate this race. But let's have a look at the strategy because we've got rain on Sunday. Right then, ladies and gents. So, strategy-wise, we are expecting the rain around lap 20. That, to me, makes sense to go onto the soft compound tyre. We'll have a look at the track map as we get into the session and see what the rain's going to do and what sort of level of dampness it's going to be. But P1 for Lando Norris. We're going to underfuel the car as well. Try and push away, break that DRS, and then dictate the race from there. So P1, P6, let's get to 5 red lights.
Get ready for some fighting between the sand dunes, here at the Dutch Grand Prix. Now I wonder, will things be going Lando Norris's way in this race?
They're on pole and it's well deserved. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do.
But there's no more time left. We've got a race on our hands. Here we go. It's the Dutch Grand Prix. it's lights out, and away we go.
And away we go, and straight away we are going for gold here because George Russell is on our inside. He's on the hard compounder tyre. It is George Russell, and we need to make sure that we can get this away here, because if we can push forward with Lando Norris, we can leave George Russell on the much harder compounder tyre in our dust. Hopefully he'll hold up the Ferrari and the Audi, and we can run off into the distance. Pierre Gasly's had a more interesting start as well. He's down in P6. He's got his old teammate Esteban Ocon in the Mercedes in P5. Just behind him, Lance Stroll P7, Max Verstappen all the way down in P17. But Lando Norris already driving around Zandvoort and looking in complete control as we come to the middle sector of lap 1. Now let's have a look at the track details. It's going to be on the cusp of dries and intermediates most of the time. It's going to be very, very close on whether the inters or the dries are what to go on. I think it's going to be inters really from around lap 20, so that's something we've got to keep an eye on. And we also want to pull out a nice gap so that Lando and Gasly can potentially pit on the same lap. That would be absolutely ideal as well. But Pierre Gasly at the moment, as we come to the end of lap 1, has stayed in P6. He's dropped Lance Stroll at an absolute rate of knots. Has Pierre Gasly. We are just going to calm him down on the ERS a little bit. Lando Norris will calm down on that when he's out of DRS, but Lando Norris leads the Dutch Grand Prix. Lap 7, it's been pretty quiet, but Pierre Gasly has got Esteban Ocon. He got the DRS. Ocon can't keep up with the cars in front, and Pierre Gasly in that Andretti Cadillac round the outside of turn 1. And then, of course, the extra helping of the DRS. Lovely from Pierre Gasly up into P5. He can now chase after Valtteri Bottas. Ocon's actually coming back at him a little bit there. We are now going to attack again with Pierre Gasly, but we have just started harvesting a little bit with Lando Norris and calming down on the tyres. Perez and Russell are not catching him. He's got a nice 3-second gap now to Checo Perez. Gasly's job is to catch Bottas. And on lap 8, Gasly's job to catch Bottas is complete. New fastest lap of the Grand Prix from Pierre Gasly. Just get the timing up for 1:13.5 for Pierre Gasly, and that has also dropped Ocon massively. He's on for a podium today, is Pierre. Norris just charging up. He's losing a bit of time to Perez, but not too much. And on lap 10, Pierre Gasly has got Valtteri Bottas. He actually got him into the final corner. Lovely work from Pierre Gasly. He can now see George Russell in front of him on the hard compounder tyre. I'm reckoning it's going to turn damp, so we are going to be going on to the inters. Maybe George Russell's thinking, actually, we can go a little bit longer on the hards while it's wet. I'm not too sure, but Pierre Gasly now right on the back of George Russell. This could be an Andretti 1-2 quite quickly. We'll have a full rundown on lap 10. We've got Norris in P1, then comes Perez 3.5 seconds back in P2, Russell P3, Gasly P4, then comes Bottas, Leclerc, Ocon, Stroll, and then the two Alfa Romeo Haas's of De Vries and Porsche. We bring you back on lap 13 because Nick De Vries has just made a pit stop very early. Very interesting indeed. Onto a fresh set of soft compound tyres. Maybe they are not thinking that this bit here is going to be damp enough, but surely it's going to go to inters. 4.4 seconds now the gap between Russell and Perez. He's pulling out on a bit, while Pierre Gasly is just sat on the back of George Russell. Now on lap 17, we've got some really interesting stuff going on in the pit lane because both Leclerc and Giovinazzi have gone onto another set of soft compound tyres. We are expecting the rain anytime soon. That doesn't make sense to me unless our weather radar is not correct. We're expecting to be on the inters pretty shortly, so I'm not convinced that's quite the right call from those guys. We are just being moderate on the tyres just in case the rain doesn't come as quickly as we'd like. But lap 17 still, gap to Perez is 4 seconds. And on lap 20, as predicted, we are starting to see the raindrops fall. The gap to Perez now is 3.2 seconds. We're going to start pushing a little bit with Lando to keep that gap because we'd like to get both our drivers in at the same time if we possibly can. Nick De Vries has just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, but rain is imminent. We have got a virtual safety car. It's Théo Pourchaire who's crashed. He was in P9. We've said how well Pourchaire did at the start. Crashing there. And now we are thinking, do we need to pit now or do we not? We'll bring you back if we do. We have taken a big gamble with Pierre Gasly. We have left Lando Norris out, but Pierre Gasly is coming in for the intermediate tyres while this VSC is on. We're expecting this track to be dry in a little while, so it made sense to bring, in my opinion, Pierre Gasly into the box for a cheap pit stop. We'll see if that was the correct decision, but Pierre Gasly back out under VSC. Now we are back to green flag running a little bit quicker than we would have liked with Pierre Gasly, who's currently sat down in P7. Of course, he's got an advantage, but he needs a downpour, and he needs it now. Lando Norris, it was the correct decision to stay out. So as we resume green flag running, we're expecting it to be damp very shortly, but Gasly's just got to hang on here. And the pit stops are now alive, and there's a lot of people coming in for the intermediate compounder tyre. A couple are staying out, and at the moment we are one of them with Lando Norris. We are going to be pitting this lap, but my word, this is some Grand Prix. Pierre Gasly now back up to P6. The tyres are starting to come to him. Pierre Gasly in to the pits on lap 26, as was Russell and Stroll. And Lando Norris has got the decision right. Pierre Gasly now is starting to come to him. The track is now his, but Lando Norris is back out in front. And where is Pierre Gasly? Just coming around the final turn 1, and he's right on the back of Perez. He's not really lost too much, but he hasn't got the intermediate tyres, as good or intermediate tyres now as the rest have. So Pierre Gasly will be a little bit disappointed with that pit stop. We tried to risk it and maybe gain a little bit more than we could. But Lando Norris now back out in P1, 2.6 seconds gap to Russell. There's still a hive of activity in the pit lane. The Hugo Boss is double stacking at this moment in time. Max Verstappen now back up into P8, but my word, what a part of the race that was. But Lando Norris is still in front on the Inters. And it must be said now, I think this weather is in for the afternoon. We're going to have to plan when our next pit stop should be. Lap 30 now. It's all sort of settled down a little bit now on lap 30. Lando Norris is 2.7 seconds in front of Russell. I would suggest George Russell's a little bit quicker than us on these Inters at the moment, but we've got the tyres in the right window now. We are going to switch to another set of intermediates before the end. Lando Norris predicted to go on to them around lap 51, whereas Pierre Gasly will be coming in around lap 49. Obviously, he was out a little bit earlier, and his tyres aren't quite as good a nick as we would like, and it gives him a little chance to get an undercut as well, so Gasly will be happy with that. But at the moment, we are just managing the tyre wear, and as we get towards halfway, Lando Norris is leading the Dutch Grand Prix, and Verstappen is in P7. We'll have a full rundown. We know Russell and Perez are in P3, Gasly 4th, Ocon is in P5, Bottas P6. It's all very spaced out at this moment as well. Verstappen P7, Stroll 8th, Sainz 9th, and Zhou Guanyu in P10. Charles Leclerc out of the points. We bring you back on lap 44. Not too much else has happened, but one thing I would like to point out is the tyre wear. Because Lando Norris, I mean, we've just had a little push on everything, but George Russell was killing his tyres, trying to catch up to the back of Lando Norris, and it's not quite worked. He's done his tyres in a little bit too early for my liking, and now he's 3 seconds behind again. We've managed this gap appropriately well. Gasly's lost a little bit to Ocon, it must be said, but at the moment, I'm not too concerned about that. We're in a nice position at the moment with both cars. We've got a yellow flag on circuit once again. I was just bringing you back to show you that Max Verstappen had pit, and we have got a red flag on circuit. Max Verstappen's just pit. That won't suit him. But what has happened there? Let's have a little look at this. Lance Stroll crashing into turn 1. And then really spinning off into the Armco barriers. That is not ideal at all, because we were comfortably in the lead of this Grand Prix, and now we've got a red flag with changeable conditions. Now, you know my love of this screen and not having the strategy screen as we normally get it. We are going to have to go for the Inters. It's still wet and we're expecting light rain after the restart. So we are going for intermediate tyres on both cars again, fresh intermediate tyres. But I would like to see what it's going to be towards the end of the Grand Prix. We don't get that information. So we'll come back when we're back to 5 red lights, which we're coming to now.
Not for the first time today, the drivers are lined up, awaiting the lights. And it's lights out, and away we go.
And away we go, and once again, we need to be full attack mode, and this time George Russell is going for the move into turn 1. Lando Norris holding it round the outside. We are going to tell him to be aggressive on the overtaking, because I want to make sure that we keep in front of this Red Bull and we can try and push away. Once again, we don't get the driver options as well, what we normally get at the start of the Grand Prix, but Lando Norris just about holding on to the lead into turn 1 from George Russell. Max Verstappen has had the worst weekend so far. He was knocked out in Q1, he then pits, then there's a red flag. It's shocking look for Verstappen. He's just not quite put it together this weekend, but one man who has is Lando Norris, who's now pushing on these intermediate tyres. Are we going to see it dry at the end? We certainly are. It will dry out around lap 64, 65. There is going to be a sprint at the end. My word, how tasty a Grand Prix could this be? Pierre Gasly right back up with Checo Perez pulling away from Ocon. Once again, both our cars at the moment, bang at it. And now I've got to look at how and what tyres we go on at the end. It's obviously going to be softs, but when will we be coming in? And on lap 50, George Russell has overtaken Lando Norris. Let's have a quick look at this one. Russell into the final couple of corners, gets down the inside of Lando Norris. And that is George Russell into the lead for the first time today. Lando Norris will probably fancy this towards the end. But my word, we were so unlucky with that red flag. Gasly's pushing on at the moment as well. But Lando Norris, if he stays in touching distance of this Red Bull, I still fancy us to win this race. 22 laps to go, and we are expecting around lap 63, 64. That's when we'll be coming in for the softs. Lap 60, we are getting towards the drying period, and Lando Norris, it must be said, has killed his tyres early in this stint, and George Russell has looked after him a lot better. He's currently 3 seconds in front now, George Russell. We possibly can still get him, but we've got to get this pit stop absolutely spot on timing-wise. Pierre Gasly, similar sort of story. In P4 at the moment, he possibly could catch Perez. We are saving our ERS for when we're back on the soft compounder tyre. And our pace has dropped off that much. Checo Perez has now got us. We've dropped down to P3. This would just never have happened in the race that we were in before the red flag. But now we're down to P3. We're now fighting for the podium. But my word, we still have a chance. You can see the sunshine's now out in Zandvoort. We are just waiting for the track to dry that little bit more, then we will be in. As you can see at the top, the track is now dry, and both Andretti Cadillac cars are going to be coming in very shortly. We are double stacking. Is George Russell going to come into the pits? I would be amazed if he didn't. George Russell coming in on lap 65. Is there? George Russell's into the pits, as is Lando Norris, and as is Pierre Gasly. Right, we have got to make sure we get this absolutely spot on. We could do with us blocking the Red Bull, which we did a little bit, but here comes Lando Norris. We need good stops from our team here. Here we go. Is it a good stop? It's not bad. 3.2 seconds. He's away well. Pierre Gasly into the box as well. Release, can he get released? He's held. Pierre Gasly is out behind Max Verstappen. Verstappen jumps Pierre Gasly. Disappointing for Pierre. Lando Norris now out in P9 ahead of Perez. But we have now got in front of us Yuki Tsunoda. We need to be driving in clean air to make sure that we can get past these cars. Overtake aggression high. Lando Norris has got it all to do here to catch back up with George Russell. But Lando Norris now and Pierre Gasly both got to get past the cars in front of them. Gasly's got Verstappen, but Norris has got some inter-runners in front. Pierre Gasly has got Max Verstappen. He is well past him, to be fair, into the final corner. Lovely work from Pierre Gasly. Fantastic work from him. DRS wide open, and that really helped him get that overtake done. The state of play is this, as we just ensure that we've now got the driving clear air off, which we certainly have. Pierre Gasly's absolutely cooking on gas at the moment. He's now trying to catch up to the back of Yuki Tsunoda, who has stayed out on the intermediate tyres. But Pierre Gasly fancies a podium. Lando Norris certainly does, but he's caught at the moment between two McLarens. He's driving in clean air, but can't get past. They are just blocking off Lando Norris. This is shocking from the McLarens. Lando Norris, can he get down the inside here? He's using all his ability to get past these cars. He now pulls to the inside, now the outside, and manages just to get past the McLarens. Lando Norris now back up into P3. He's got Carlos Sainz in front of him, who I think may be staying out on the intermediates, and Pierre Gasly has got Yuki Tsunoda as well. Let's have a little look at this. He's put a car between himself and Max Verstappen. Has Max Verstappen followed him through? He certainly has, and he can now see the gaggle of cars in front. Can Pierre Gasly? We are surely going to catch Carlos Sainz, who's now, what, 8 seconds up the road. But Pierre Gasly is doing everything he can to catch up to Checo Perez, and Lando Norris is doing everything he can to catch up to Carlos Sainz. It's all going to happen at the end. New fastest lap of the Grand Prix, Pierre Gasly, and we are going to see Lando Norris. He managed to catch Carlos Sainz as we expected. It's a bold move from the Mercedes guy. It's got to be said, it's not quite paid off. You can see Pierre Gasly in the background there, and I'm hoping we're going to get a replay of this very, very shortly, because Pierre Gasly, I believe, has got Checo Perez. I say no, he hasn't. He's now back behind him again. So Pierre Gasly, more work to do here. Sainz is dropping like a stone and just causing chaos. But we are now all on Pierre Gasly getting Checo Perez, and Lando Norris needs to make sure that he doesn't give that Ferrari any sort of DRS, because that's not going to help his teammate. Lap 69, free to go. Final lap of the Grand Prix. George Russell's leading. Lando Norris is in P2, but it's all about who can get that final podium spot, and Pierre Gasly, it must be said, very much fancies it now, because he's on the back of Checo Perez, who's managed to defend down that DRS straight. We are going to get another go at this later on, but my word, Pierre Gasly, what can he do here? Russell 7 seconds in front. The gods have favoured George Russell today. Lando Norris certainly deserves P2. He deserves the win, to be fair. But Pierre Gasly, right on the back of Checo Perez, needs to get this move done, because he's going to have Max Verstappen, of all people, chasing him down as well for a podium. It's all going to happen here on the last lap in Zandvoort. Pierre Gasly looking left and right at Pierre Gasly. Will he manage to Pierre Gasly, sorry, looking at the back of Checo Perez. He looks left and right, and here goes Pierre Gasly down the inside of Checo Perez, and that is the overtake that may just get Pierre Gasly a podium here. He's still using all that ERS to try and get this podium, but my word, he's ahead at the DRS detection point. That should be enough. Pierre Gasly round the final corner. Is he going to manage to get P3? It's a drag race to the line. Gasly and Perez gets it. Oh my words. Pierre Gasly misses out by, milliseconds there on a podium. Oh, I'm so unfortunate for Pierre. Lando Norris in P2. Let's get to the podium. Poor Pierre Gasly. He deserved so much more there. But Lando Norris gets P2. My word.
What a remarkable drive by Lando Norris today.
This podium is something the whole team can be proud of. Excellent strategy and perfectly executed.
And you love to see this. The whole team celebrating this magnificent result. And after such a fabulous drive here today, it's no surprise to see this man land on the podium.
They've scored their 6th podium of the season. It's proving to be a strong year.
It very much is a strong year. I think we've got, Lando Norris looks disappointed there, and you can see why, because, before that red flag comes, I think we win that at a canter with Lando Norris. Fair play to George Russell, getting P1. P2 for Lando Norris, Perez P3. Pierre Gasly, my word, how close was he to getting that podium there? Verstappen gained 12 places, fair play to him. We saw Esteban Ocon get the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. The rest of the top 10, Bottas, Leclerc, Ocon, Albon and Zhou Guanyu in P10. We had 2 DNFs, that being Lance Stroll and Théo Pourchaire. Once again, he must be costing Alfa Romeo Haas a little bit of money now, Théo Pourchaire. Driver standings-wise, Max Verstappen does still lead. 10 points he gained this weekend, 325 points he's on now, 80 points ahead of his teammate. Lando Norris really could have gained on George Russell this weekend, but he's really cementing that P3 now. Pierre Gasly gets 12 points. He's still in P10 and chasing down Lance Stroll. And constructors-wise, we now pull 10 points clear of Ferrari in P2, but Red Bull on 570. I don't think we're quite going to catch them, but what a weekend it was in Zandvoort. We had everything. Crashes, red flags, strategy, double stacks, rain. You name it, we had it, and it was another entertaining episode. So please do like and subscribe, and I shall see you on the next one. Ta-ra!